Welcome back. A directive by the Speaker of Parliament which seeks to bring both the National Security and Interior Ministers to the House over the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election has become irrelevant following the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry. This is according to Majority Chief Whip in Parliament, Kyeremeh. North Tong MP Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa today questioned when the ministers will appear over the issue. But Mr. Kyeremeh, who responded to questions on behalf of the Majority Leader during the reading of the business statement, says the Defence and Interior Committee has also been briefed. Let's go live to Parliament and get updates from our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Joseph, how did they conclude this matter? Of course, it makes sense that it becomes irrelevant, but isn't there any parliamentary process that should still make their presence in Parliament useful and necessary?
And so for the majority side, this is something that has been probed even at the level of the Committee on Defence and Interior. And
Joseph, can you speak up a little bit as I can hardly hear you? Okay,
Gifty, let's try this again. So for those on the majority side, they think that this is something that to a certain extent Parliament has looked into or is looking into already, particularly at the level of the Defence and Interior Committee. Because you'd recall that a day after the incident, the ICC was in Parliament to meet with members of that committee, and he briefed them on the situation. And so for the majority whip, the Defence and Interior Committee has looked at the matter. There was the directive last week from the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Oseodu, when the issue was raised on the floor of Parliament, that the Interior Minister and the National Security Minister should come to the House. But their argument, for those on the majority side, is that once there is even a commission of inquiry looking into it, and we've seen the Defence and Interior Committee also look into it to a certain extent, it won't be possible for another round of questioning right on the floor of the House itself, which is the contrary view that the minority MPs hold and are of the same conviction that the third leader should be on the floor to respond to questions forcefully.
So the conclusion is this is not happening?
No, it's not happening. That's actually the conclusion, at least until after the probe at the level of the commission is done.
Tell us what else happened in Parliament today, Joseph.
A number of other things. The Minister for Health, Menu, was on the floor to respond to a number of questions, including issues having to do with the University of Ghana medical health facility. And he explained that by the end of the year, that facility will be 100% operational, so that then Ghanaians would get the benefit of it. Also on the floor today, the issue of the 5-year-old child in Abura in the central region, who got his hand chopped off after the stepmother used the machete on him and resulted in his hand getting lost and eventually amputated. It came up on the floor of Parliament. The MP for Kumbungu, Rasu Barak, raised it in a statement, drawing attention to what he says is repeated cases of abuse of children. So that, and additionally, the story about the 11-year-old child in Bogatanga who was set on fire with petrol for allegedly peeping at a naked woman. The MPs condemned those acts and said that there is a need for parents to ensure children get the best of care. But more importantly, even after the MPs raised the issue, the Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Kwe, directed that the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Cynthia Morrison, appears before the House latest by next week, Wednesday, to respond to questions on what is being done to ensure that children in those two specific incidents get justice. And so she's expected on the floor of the House next week. And additionally, the Speaker has directed that the Legal Affairs Department of Parliament looks into this issue and makes propositions on any possible change in the country's laws that would ensure more protection for children so some of these things don't happen.
Sounds good, and I'm sure that here at the JoyNews, the Gender and Social Protection Desk will be very excited about that news. Joseph, thank you very much.
I can imagine.
Thank you very much for that update. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our parliamentary affairs correspondent, reaching us all the way from Parliament with what's been happening there today. So you know, the ministers for national security and the interior are no longer going to Parliament to answer questions about Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election violence. And of course, we also know that the issue of domestic violence, as far as those two boys concerned, has been raised on the floor of Parliament. They're waiting for the minister to respond.